Do you want me to check every contract manually? Alright, hope you're not in a rush. One of my first jobs after college was at a small financial services company. There were tons of problems, most because of the boss. I'll call her Cruella de Vil. She was tall, insanely thin, with a sharp face, always in heels and designer clothes. Cruella was wildly incompetent and constantly yelled at people, blaming them for her mistakes. She often took long vacations abroad and bragged about buying expensive gifts for her 20-year-old boyfriend. No joke. Yet she complained how expensive it was to support us, even though she paid minimum wage and no one ever got a raise. She fired people over the smallest reasons or imaginary slights. She had favorites, so a few of her minions could do whatever they wanted while the rest of us were like serfs. The staff turnover was huge. The atmosphere was so toxic, only losers who couldn't find other jobs or desperate folks like me worked there. Honestly, the only reason the company wasn't falling apart was that Cruella showed up once or twice a week. The rest of the time, we worked without her interference. She was a cartoon villain. It's impossible to overstate how awful her personality was. Now I can laugh about it. Back then, I was terrified when she yelled at me from across the hall. I was young. It was my first job. At first, when she yelled, I thought I must have done something wrong, wasn't good enough. The job itself was boring and routine, but we had a crucial task. When we received physical copies of contracts from clients, we had to scan them, upload the scans to our internal database, then send the physical contracts to the head office. This was vital because if a contract was lost, the client might stop paying, and the company would lose money. Losing one contract could mean a $5,000 to $10,000 loss. The head office took it very seriously, sometimes launching investigations. Of course, the company was poorly organized and contracts got lost all the time. Everyone knew this, even me, a newbie. The numbers of contracts received and sent didn't match. But no one dared tell Cruella, and she was too stupid to notice herself. This couldn't go on forever. One Thursday morning, Cruella called me into her office and demanded I check all contracts in the database to find out if anything was missing. The head office was pressing her, suspecting discrepancies, and now she pretended it was my job and that I wasn't doing it. It was ridiculous because this check wasn't part of my duties. It was a huge responsibility no new employee should have. No one ever told me to do this during my 2 months there. But I still wanted to be a good employee. So I said I'd do it immediately. She grabbed a stack of printed pages from her desk and handed them to me, saying, "Here are contract numbers for the last quarter. Check each one and write down any missing contracts." But there are no missing contracts. This is impossible. Are you all idiots? I thought. Maybe something was missing. Hurry up, I need this today, I'm flying to Ibiza. I looked at the stack in my hands. It was about 100 pages, each page listing long contract number lists, maybe thousands of contracts. I estimated it would take me 4 to 5 days to check this list manually. Of course, finishing it in one day was impossible. When I tried to tell Cruella, she looked at me like I was an idiot and started yelling. You just enter the number in the computer, then look at the info. It takes 10 to 20 seconds max. Stop being lazy and get to work. She thought if one contract took 10 seconds, 1,000 could be done in 10 minutes. How could I expect math to apply to Cruella, who always knew best? By then, I was fed up with her ridiculous demands, but still tried to do my job properly. Yes, I was young and naive. The hour for malicious obedience had not yet come. I returned to my office and tried to find a way to finish the task in one day. After calming down from the yelling, I realized it was actually simple. Cruella said check contracts one by one because it was the only way she knew. Almost everyone in the office was a computer newbie, but I had access to the database in Google. After some trial and error, I found an online guide and made a database query to immediately see a list of all missing contracts. I didn't have to worry about missing a line or entering a wrong number, which would definitely happen if done manually. It took less than 2 hours. There were 22 missing contracts total. Losing one was bad, 2 worse, but 22? No way. I even enjoyed proving how badly Cruella messed up. I printed the list of 22 missing contracts. Cruella didn't use email, so I went to her office. At first, she smugly said, "See? I told you it wouldn't take long. You lazy fool." But when she saw the list, her eyes nearly popped out. She immediately started yelling it was impossible and I made a mistake. I didn't flinch because even if I sometimes doubted myself, I believed the data. I manually checked the 22 contracts. I was 100% sure they were missing. She yelled, I just shook my head saying the data was correct, coming from my query. I'm sure she didn't even know what a query was. All she understood was I didn't do what she told me, check manually. Instead, I used some computer magic. She screamed I wasn't hired to hack her database and even implied my degree was fake. No joke. She threw a paper at me and said now my job was to do it all over, but properly. And here comes the malicious part. I went back to my office and took Cruella's original page list. Before, I didn't need it because I could filter records by date. But now I was forbidden to hack the database. I had to do everything right very slowly. I entered the first number, waited for the page to load, checked the contract carefully. This was a very important task Cruella gave me. The contract was fine, so I ticked it with a pencil. One done, thousands left. At this stage, Cruella essentially paid me to listen to podcasts with headphones on while doing a slow, inefficient task. I had other tasks, but I dropped everything because Cruella said this was my only job. By lunchtime, I finished maybe 3 or 4 pages. By midday, Cruella started asking why it was taking so long. Complaints came in that my usual tasks weren't done. She came to my office and accused me of doing nothing. I showed her my list and slowly entered a contract number and ticked it. I saw the wheels turning in her head as she slowly realized she'd given me an impossible task. She asked about my list of 22 missing contracts. I said it was full of errors, so I destroyed it and deleted the files. She started yelling she was flying to Ibiza tonight and I was too slow. I replied I was being careful because she had scolded me for mistakes and I wanted to make sure not to repeat them. Then she had a brilliant idea. She said I was too slow and stupid, so she'd do the job herself. Of course, her doing the job meant calling every employee one by one, giving them a couple pages of contract numbers, and telling them to check and write down missing contracts. She refused to admit I proved it impossible for one person to finish in a day. So she decided 30 people would do it in a day. To put me in my place, she gave me the worst task so she could make her own list. She thought it was punishment for me. I didn't care, I just laughed at how she stopped the whole office for 4 hours. Every time I gave someone their list, I told them seriously, be careful, don't rush. Miss DeVille says it's very important not to make mistakes. It was complete nonsense. She made even the secretary do it, so calls went unanswered and chaos ruled the front desk. I felt sorry for the 2 or 3 decent people dragged into this, but the rest were idiots. By day's end, Cruella barely assembled her missing contract list. She showed it to me proudly, saying only 19 contracts were missing. She tried to spin it as a victory because her list was 3 contracts shorter than mine. Her list was wrong. I kept a copy and later compared it with Cruella's. She and others correctly found 18 missing contracts. They completely missed 4 contracts. 1 contract listed by Cruella wasn't even lost. This last mistake was especially ridiculous because it meant no one rechecked the list. Otherwise, they'd find the contract in the database and the error would be obvious. I didn't point it out, I wasn't asked to check her work. At this point, a small smirk appeared on my face because I realized the head office would find not only how many contracts were lost but also that Cruella didn't even know how to check. She was screwed but too dumb to realize it. Of course, the boss noticed my smirk and yelled at me. Why are you laughing? You think it's funny you wasted so much time? No, you're absolutely right, Miss DeVille. It was possible to check all contracts manually by tonight. Thanks for showing me. Don't think you're so smart. You know how many people want your job? I could replace you easily. Really? There are many qualified candidates. I could call any of them and they'd start tomorrow. Great idea. You should do that. I'm quitting. My last day is next Wednesday. She froze in shock. I didn't see her again. She was supposed to be in Ibiza Friday to Sunday, but I heard she extended her vacation. Not sure if she tried to avoid me or head office people investigating missing contracts. My replacement started Tuesday. I didn't talk to him. The rest of the days, I just sat in the office watching YouTube. On Wednesday, I left feeling like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. I prepared for hard times. I quit suddenly, had no other job or good references. But I got lucky. By the end of the month, I found a much better job. The funniest part, I just wanted my last paycheck and to forget about Cruella. But her deputy, Jasper, said I had to come in and sign some legal papers agreeing not to sue the company. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay me. I said I wasn't suing, just wanted my money. He insisted on the signature. Said it was a legal requirement for my protection. All former employees had to sign these papers. I wouldn't get paid without signing. Eventually, I agreed to come. I brought a lawyer. Jasper's face instantly turned to oh crap when I calmly explained I wanted to make sure all documents were in order and no mistakes would be made. The lawyer skimmed the papers, quoted laws, and said something like, "My client's contract is clear. He's not obligated to sign anything if he doesn't get paid by such and such date. We will sue for breach of contract." Unlike some people, I didn't lose my contract. The next day, I got my money. Never went back. Later I heard Cruella's company went bankrupt. She had to ask family for help so she wouldn't be homeless. Comments. User. Why didn't you send your exact list of missing contracts to Cruella's head office right after she left? Author. Honestly, I didn't even feel tempted. If head office started investigating, they'd quickly find the missing contract list. Plus, I wasn't planning to stay in this field, I just wanted to put this messy story behind me ASAP. Well, as always, write in the comments what you think about this story. Here's my opinion. The author did mostly right, but if I were him, I wouldn't have quit immediately. I'd work a bit longer, at least until I found a new job, because job hunting can take a long time. The story doesn't say if he found a better or worse job or any job at all. Some people look for jobs for a long time or more. So think before making big moves like that. Thanks for watching until the end. Watch our previous video here. Subscribe to our channel because we have many more long stories coming. Good luck!